I should have known something was wrong. There were signs, little things that gnawed at the edges of my sanity. The way she hesitated before kissing me, the sudden late nights, the way her phone was always face down on the table. But I ignored them. I was happy. Or maybe I just wanted to be. It had been 6 months since the wedding. 6 months since I had stood at that altar, looking into her eyes, promising to love her until death. And in those moments, I had meant every word. Every single one. But love is blind. And I was the blindest fool of all. That night, I was supposed to be out of town. A business trip, one that I had told her about weeks in advance. But a last-minute cancellation meant I came home early. I didn't tell her. I wanted to surprise her. I had even picked up her favorite flowers on the way home. I was the one in for a surprise. The moment I walked into the apartment, I felt it. Something was off. Her purse was gone, but she hadn't mentioned going out. The air smelled of expensive perfume, the kind she only wore on special occasions. Then I saw her laptop, open on the kitchen counter. The screen was dimmed, but a notification blinked in the corner. A message. We're on for tonight. Same club. Can't wait. Winking face. The sender's name made my stomach tighten. It wasn't just one man. It was two. My breath came in short, ragged gasps as I tried to process what I was seeing. My wife. My beautiful, devoted wife, meeting two men at a nightclub while I was supposed to be away. I felt the blood drain from my face. My hands clenched into fists. But rage wasn't my first emotion. It was something much worse. Emptiness. It was as if everything inside me had been scooped out, leaving nothing but a hollow shell. I could have called her, confronted her right then and there. But something inside me, something cold and calculating, whispered, wait. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to watch. And then, I was going to destroy her. I knew where the club was. She had been there before, on girls' nights, that I had never questioned. I used to trust her. I used to kiss her goodbye and tell her to have fun. The thought made my stomach churn. I didn't rush. I took my time. If she was going to humiliate me, I was going to make sure I had everything I needed to return the favor. Driving through the city, my mind was eerily calm. No shaking hands, no frantic heartbeat. Just an unsettling stillness, like the eye of a storm. I parked a few blocks away, slid on a cap, and pulled up the camera app on my phone. I stepped inside. The club was alive with pulsing music and neon lights. Bodies moved together in a haze of alcohol and bad decisions. I scanned the crowd, searching. My breath caught in my throat when I found her. She was there, all right. Dressed in the red dress I had bought her for our honeymoon. The one she had said was only for me. She wasn't alone. Two men flanked her, both laughing, both leaning too close. Their hands lingered on her skin, their lips brushed her ear as they whispered things that made her smile. The same smile she used to give me. The same playful bite of her lip. I lifted my phone, hand steady, and hit record. She was lost in them. Laughing, flirting, letting their hands roam. She had forgotten the husband who had kissed her goodbye that morning. Forgotten the vows we had exchanged. I should have left. I should have walked away before I saw more. But I didn't. Because I wasn't just here to see. I was here to witness. And once I had everything I needed, I walked out of that club, without her ever knowing I was there. Now, it was my turn. And I would make sure she never forgot what came next. I drove home in silence. The video sat on my phone like a ticking time bomb. Every time I glanced at the screen, a fresh wave of disgust surged through me. Not just at her, but at myself. For loving her. For trusting her. For believing, like a fool, that she was mine. I parked in the driveway but didn't go inside. Not yet. I sat there in the dark, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My mind raced, calculating. What now? I could confront her. I could scream, throw things, demand answers she would lie her way through. Or I could do what she never expected. I could make sure this betrayal didn't just hurt me. I scrolled through my contacts until I found the number. My thumb hovered over the screen. Do it. I pressed send. A groggy voice answered on the third ring. Hello. Sorry to wake you, I said, my voice emotionless. But I thought you'd want to see what your daughter's been up to. Silence. Then, what? Who is this? I sent the video. Less than a minute later, my phone rang again. This time, it was her father. What? What is this? His voice shook. It's your daughter, I said. Enjoy. I hung up. I wasn't done yet. Next, I sent the video to her mother. Her sister. Her closest friends. People she would never want to see what she had done. And finally, I sent it to her. Then I waited. 30 minutes later, the front door burst open. She stumbled inside, panting, eyes wild. Her purse fell to the floor as she locked eyes with me. "Why, you were supposed to be out of town," she stammered, as if that was the real problem. "Guess not," I said, leaning back in my chair. "Good night." Tears welled up in her eyes. "I can explain." "Don't." My voice was ice. Her phone buzzed in her hand. Then again, and again. She looked down, saw the messages, and then she broke. I watched as realization crashed over her like a tidal wave. She swayed on her feet, her face draining of color. Her perfect little world, the one she built on lies, was crumbling. You sent this to my parents?" she whispered. I tilted my head. "Did I?" Her breath hitched. Her hands trembled. Oh my God. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. Good. She deserved every second of it. And this was only the beginning. She stood there, trembling, her phone clutched so tightly I thought it might shatter in her grip. I watched her breathing grow ragged, the weight of her shame pressing down on her like an avalanche. Every message she read stripped away another layer of her composure. She opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again, like a fish gasping for air, drowning in her own betrayal. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I wanted her to sit in that silence, to feel the full force of what she had done. Let her mind race. Let her scramble for excuses. Let her beg. But she didn't. Not yet. Instead, she sank down onto the couch, her hands shaking as she scrolled through her phone, trying to do damage control. I could see it in her eyes. Panic. The desperate need to contain this, to fix it, to make it all go away. But there was nothing to fix. The damage was permanent. She whispered my name. A broken plea. "Please, please tell me you didn't. You think I wouldn't?" My voice was cold, devoid of anything resembling love. Love was dead. After what you did. Tears spilled down her cheeks, but I felt nothing. I had spent months believing I was married to someone who loved me. I had given her my heart, my trust, my loyalty. And she had repaid me by crawling into another man's arms, two men's arms. My stomach churned at the memory of that video, at the way she had smiled for them, touched them, given them pieces of herself that were supposed to belong to me. She wiped her face, shaking her head, her breath coming in sharp gasps. "I was drunk," she whispered. "I wasn't thinking. I didn't mean to." I laughed. Actually laughed. A bitter, humorless sound that filled the room like poison. "You didn't mean to? Oh, that's rich. Tell me, did they trip and fall on top of you? Was it all just a misunderstanding?" She flinched, like my words had physically struck her. I wasn't in my right mind." "Then tell me something," I said, leaning forward, my eyes locked onto hers. "How many times have you not been in your right mind? Once? Twice? Or was this just another regular night for you while your stupid, trusting husband was out of town?" She covered her mouth with both hands, shaking her head violently. No, it wasn't like that, I swear. It was a mistake. A huge mistake. Right? I said, standing up. Just a mistake. Like forgetting to pick up milk from the store. Just a little accident. I turned away, running a hand through my hair, feeling my pulse pounding in my ears. "You disgust me." She let out a choked sob, curling in on herself like a wounded animal. "I love you." The words made me snap. I turned on her, rage boiling over. "No, you don't," I spat. "You don't love me. You love the life I gave you. You love the comfort, the security, the image of being my wife. But me? No. You don't get to say that after what you did. You don't get to insult me like that." She sobbed harder, burying her face in her hands. "Please. Please what?" I cut her off. "Please forgive you. Please forget. Just sweep it under the rug and pretend it never happened." I laughed again, but there was nothing human left in it. "You think I'm that weak? That's stupid." She was shaking, her whole body trembling with fear, regret, whatever pathetic emotions were clawing at her insides. But none of it mattered. Nothing she said, nothing she did, could change what was already done. Then, her phone buzzed. A new message. I saw the name flash across the screen. One of them. I grabbed the phone out of her hands before she could react. She gasped, reaching for it, but I stepped back, holding it up where she couldn't reach. Her face twisted in sheer terror as I swiped to open the message. "Had a great time tonight. Can't wait for round 2. Winking face. Something inside me snapped. My grip on the phone tightened. My vision blurred red. She scrambled up from the couch, reaching for me, her voice high and desperate. Don't. Please, don't read that. I threw the phone against the wall with every ounce of strength I had. It shattered into 100 tiny pieces, just like my trust, just like our marriage. The sound echoed through the house, and she screamed, flinching like I had hit her. Her eyes darted from the broken phone to my face, wide with horror. She was realizing something important, that I wasn't her husband anymore. The man she married was gone, buried under the weight of her betrayal. The man standing in front of her was someone else entirely, someone who had no mercy left to give. You ruined everything, I said, my voice a low, venomous whisper. Everything we built, everything I gave you. And for what? A couple of cheap thrills. She sobbed, shaking her head, whispering over and over, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Yeah, I said, stepping closer. You're gonna be. She watched me, fear flickering in her tear-streaked eyes, and I could see it happening in real time. The moment she realized that this wasn't going to end the way she wanted. You need to leave, I said, my voice steady, controlled. Her head snapped up. What? You heard me. I pointed to the door. Get out. But, now. She stumbled to her feet, still crying, still shaking, still pleading. But I was done listening. She hesitated, her eyes darting to our bedroom, then back to me. Where am I supposed to? Not my problem. Her lips trembled. She looked so small now, so pathetic, so different from the woman who had laughed and danced in that club just hours ago. Please, she whispered. I took a slow step toward her, lowering my voice to something dark and quiet. Do I look like I care? That was the final blow. I saw the last bit of fight drain out of her. She grabbed her purse, her precious purse, and staggered toward the door. She hesitated for just a second, looking at me like she wanted to say something else. But whatever it was, she must have seen the emptiness in my eyes, because she just let out a broken breath, opened the door, and stepped out into the night. And just like that, she was gone. I stood there for a long time, staring at the empty doorway, the house still ringing with the ghost of her sobs. I should have felt relief. I should have felt victorious. But all I felt was cold. And this wasn't over. Not yet. The silence in the house was suffocating. The door clicked shut behind her, leaving me alone in the ruins of everything I had once believed in. I stood motionless, staring at the empty space where she had just been, my mind replaying every lie, every betrayal, every moment I had wasted loving someone who had never truly been mine. The weight of it pressed against my chest, but not as pain. No, that stage had passed. What remained was something colder, sharper. Revenge. I turned away, my gaze landing on the shattered remains of her phone on the floor. A fitting symbol of what I had just done to her life. But I wasn't finished. Destroying her in the moment had been satisfying, but it wasn't enough. Her tears, her broken voice, her trembling hands, none of it erased what she had done. None of it repaid me for the humiliation, the betrayal, the gut-wrenching pain of seeing her with them. If she thought she could just walk out and salvage whatever was left of her life, she was dead wrong. I moved toward my desk, opening my laptop. The video was still there, waiting like a loaded weapon. But I had already used that bullet. I had already sent it to her parents, her sister, her friends. No, now I needed something more. Something that would ensure she never escaped the consequences of what she had done. I opened my email and began typing. First, to her workplace. A well-crafted message, complete with video evidence, sent anonymously to the managing partners of her firm. They prided themselves on their reputation, on their high moral standards. A scandal like this would be poison, especially for someone like her, whose image had been carefully cultivated for years. She would walk into work tomorrow expecting a normal day and instead find herself on the receiving end of a brutal professional execution. Next, her social media. I still had access to her accounts. She had never thought to change her passwords. With a few clicks, I uploaded the video, captioning it simply. Some vows are meant to be broken, I guess. Then I logged out, letting the world do what it did best, judge. But the final move, the real dagger, was yet to come. I picked up my phone and dialed a number I never thought I'd call. It rang twice before a deep voice answered. This is Michael. Hey, Michael, I said, my voice calm, controlled. This is about your wife. A pause. Then, a sharp intake of breath. Who is this? I smiled coldly. Someone who thought you deserved to know that while you were home being a good husband, Your wife was out with mine. Silence. Then, a low, dangerous tone. Say that again. I did. Every detail. Every disgusting, gut-churning moment. I painted the picture for him in the way only a man who had suffered it firsthand could. And then, I sent him the proof. By the time I hung up, I knew exactly what was coming next. His rage was palpable, even over the phone. He wouldn't just confront her, he would destroy her. And that was the final piece of the puzzle. She had lost her home. She had lost her dignity. She was about to lose her job. And now, she would lose her safety net, the man she had run to when she had no one else. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. It was done. Every move calculated. Every thread of her life unraveling before she even had the chance to react. And then, my phone rang. Her name flashed on the screen, but I didn't pick up. I let it ring, let it go to voicemail. Seconds later, another call. Then a text. What have you done? I smirked, setting the phone down. She was finally feeling what I had felt. The panic, the helplessness, the crushing weight of losing everything in an instant. But she was only at the beginning. I had lived through the agony of betrayal. Now it was her turn, and I had no intention of stopping here. The night stretched on, but I didn't sleep. Sleep was for the innocent, and I had long since crossed the line into something else. I sat in the dim glow of my laptop screen, watching her world implode in real time. Social media exploded, comments, messages, shares. Some were sympathetic, most were brutal. Her closest friends turned on her, condemning her actions in public, while others messaged me privately, offering words of support or thinly veiled satisfaction. Her job was next. The managing partners at her firm had received my email, and it didn't take long before they responded. I didn't have to hear their voices to know how this would go. Her career was built on trust, reputation, and personal branding. The moment they saw that video, she became a liability. I imagined her walking into that office the next morning, expecting to do damage control, only to be met with cold stares, whispered conversations, and the dreaded summons to the senior partner's conference room. But I wasn't done. Michael called me back before sunrise. His voice was raw, filled with a rage that mirrored my own. I found her, he said, his breathing heavy. She was trying to lie her way out of it. Even after I showed her the video, she still had the nerve to tell me it wasn't what it looked like. That's what they do, I said flatly. She's out, he spat. I threw her out. Told her she could go crawling back to whatever gutter she came from. He let out a bitter laugh. Guess that's your doorstep now. Not a chance, I said. She's not my problem anymore. There was a silence between us, an unspoken understanding. We were two men who had been used, humiliated, discarded. And now, we were the ones setting the terms. By the time morning arrived, my phone had flooded with messages. Most from her. Some from mutual friends, confused, horrified, demanding answers. But I ignored them all. She had chosen to betray me. Now, she could live with the consequences. I knew she would come back. She had nowhere else to go. Michael had cut her off. Her family had turned their backs. Her friends, at least, the ones that mattered, wanted nothing to do with her. She had built a life of comfort, of security, of being the wife of a man who loved her. And I had taken it all away. I heard the knock at the door around noon. Not loud. Hesitant. Weak. I didn't answer right away. I let her stand there, shifting from foot to foot, probably hoping I'd let her in, that I'd give her a chance to explain, to beg. After a few minutes, I opened the door. She looked like a ghost of herself. Her eyes were red and puffy, her hair unkempt, her makeup smeared from hours of crying. She had always been careful about her appearance, always polished, always poised. But now, she was unraveling at the seams. Please, she whispered. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. For what? She swallowed hard, glancing past me like she could still step inside, like this was still her home. Her voice cracked. I don't have anywhere else to go. Not my problem, I said coldly. Her lower lip trembled. You've ruined me. I almost laughed. I had ruined her? After everything she had done? No, I said. You did that all on your own. Tears streamed down her face. I made a mistake, she whispered. One night. One stupid, drunken night. Please. I love you. Stop saying that. I snapped, the ice in my voice cutting through the air. You don't love me. You love what I gave you. You love what I was. But I am not that man anymore. She broke. Completely. Sobbing, collapsing against the doorframe, clutching at my shirt like she could hold on to some piece of our past. Please don't do this, she wept. Please. I pried her hands off me. It's already done. I stepped back and shut the door. She tried to fight it. She tried to call, to text, to show up at my work, hoping I'd give her a second chance. But I had already erased her from my life. The locks were changed, her things packed and sent to whatever hotel she had scrounged up. My lawyer had the divorce papers drawn up within days. There was no negotiation, no drawn-out battle. She had no leverage. Everything was on my terms. And she signed them, because she had no choice. The last time I saw her was in the lawyer's office. She was quieter now, hollowed out by her own choices. She barely looked at me as she scrawled her signature across the page. When she was done, she hesitated, her hand resting on the paper. Then she lifted her eyes to mine, desperate, broken. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? I stared at her for a long moment, considering the woman who had once been my everything. Then, I stood up and walked out without a word. I won't say it was easy. The weeks that followed were a blur of anger, exhaustion, and numbness. Even after taking everything from her, even after watching her life crumble, there were still nights where I stared at the ceiling, wondering how it had all gone so wrong. But time passed. The pain dulled. And I moved on. I didn't chase revenge anymore. I didn't need to. She had been punished in ways I could never have imagined. She lost her job. She had to move out of the city, start over somewhere else. No one trusted her. No one wanted her. As for me, I rebuilt. I found myself again, piece by piece. I went to the gym. I traveled. I reconnected with friends I had lost while trying to be the perfect husband to a woman who never deserved me. And eventually, I found someone else. Someone who didn't lie. Someone who didn't betray. Someone who reminded me what it felt like to be wanted, not just as a provider, but as a man. And I was happy. Months later, I received one last message from her. I think about you every day. I don't expect you to respond, but I just needed to tell you. I'll never stop loving you. I hope one day you'll be happy again. I'm so sorry. I read it twice. Then, without hesitation, I deleted it. She was my past, and I had finally stepped into my future. The revenge had been satisfying, but the real victory? I had won, and she would have to live with that for the rest of her life.